Hey guys, it's me, Jackie. LOL. So, this is a book that I got from the library called Rethinking Medications. And it's talking about rethinking medications, right? With the pill bottle. And it's by Jerry Averon, MD. And Rethinking Medications. Um, it says truth power the drugs you take and on a pill bottle. And um today I'm doing a review. I read about 4 or 5 6 pages, right? And they're talking about like the medicine side effects to the medicines. It doesn't matter if it's cancer, liver, heart, kidneys. um it doesn't matter what kind of medicine it is. And I was going to say, my problem is that what he was talking about is scientific, field at Harvard, not Harvard, but what was it called? What it was called? Not Harvard. I think it was. Let me read if I can find it. I think it was Harvard or something. Scientific medicine, Harvard Medical School. Okay, yes. I was making sure. And he was talking about the side effects to all medicines, like opioids, addiction for pain, and you know, um, ecstasy, and your hormones, and how you don't get, you know what I mean, any kind of tardive dyskinesia or um, heart failure, kidney failure, lungs, whatever. It's like, when you go and you be a surgeon and you study to be a surgeon or a plastic surgeon or a doctor. um a lot of times people, they will take these medicines and not know the side effects. It's been around since the 1960s, and the 1960s, that was a very long time ago. And over the decade, they forgot some of the side effects, and decades of research, what surgeons should be doing, what scientists should be doing with the medicines. And opioids was one of the worst medicines, cancer medicines, ecstasy medicine, whatever. And I haven't got my period in like maybe 17 years, once a year. So I basically don't get it every month. My period, I don't get fluid in the brain from the medicine. And it could cause me to have headaches and dry eyes and blindness and stuff like that. But I haven't went blind, because all I really have is dry eyes and fluid in the brain that just causes my brain to shrink, tardive dyskinesia or whatever. And cancer and opioids, pain relievers, all the medical research they did was like in the 1960s and stuff like that, 1960s, 1990s. um and it's been a decade. They say it's been going on for at least 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, I don't know. But if you buy this book, right, and because I might not be explaining everything right, it says gynecology, anything that got to do with um, a doctor, surgeon, people that see get their chips in their brain or AI chips. It doesn't say that, but they say they will drill a hole in somebody's brain and their skull and everything, just for them to get a surgery because, hey, they got cancer, they got a tumor, right? Or they got tardive dyskinesia or something. And it's just the same thing with the AI chip. It's the same thing with getting any kind of nose job, liposuction, anything like that, right? And people with obesity, we think that we're eating the wrong foods and stuff. And you're supposed to eat vegetables, eat fruits and stuff, but sugar, salt, and pepper and spices and everything else, that's addicting, including cigarettes, like that causes cancer, right? You think that you're doing the wrong thing, by listening to the doctor. But a lot of doctors, they don't really realize that 100 years of scientific research, they do experiments like clinical trials and stuff. And he's saying basically in the beginning of the book that the clinical trials was going on for at least 100 years, 50 years, 100 years, I don't know, maybe longer, maybe 1,000 years, I don't know. But clinical trials, like, it's like the same thing when I was talking about, like, herbs, herbal medicines could be just as toxic. That's what he was saying. Like, herbals, that's like me taking um lion mane for an example, or B12. It could be just as bad to the body as any other medicine, but it's healthier than the drugs that they sell. You better off, taking B12 or lion mane or nootropics, right? And I tried all the nootropics. I tried lion mane nootropics. I tried B12, cat fish oil, omega 3. And I was so mad about it because eventually I noticed as I got older, I started becoming more irritable, more depressed, angry, and weight gain like crazy, and breathing problems from smoking cigarettes and using like kojic acid, glutathione, MSM, and other things like what you call it, B12, mega fish oils, and lion mane, right? And bilberry and all this other stuff. But I thought it was going to work better because it was natural. It still has side effects to it. So, um, basically, this guy here is saying that in 2024, during the election, they decided that they were going to try to stop some of those pharmaceutical companies that were making tons of money, because it's expensive for medicine in the USA, but it's not expensive for medicine outside the USA. So, it's like, OMG, like I didn't know that. And then they have plastic surgeon, gynecologists, cancer doctors, liposuction, opioids, and uh, ecstasy or whatever. And you don't know what stuff what the medicine is mixed with. And then it's like they said Trump was trying to stop a lot of things too. And it's like $100 an hour these pharmacists is making, maybe more than that. And doctors is making 100 an hour, right? But the problem that lies within is that it's not the science behind it is not perfect. Anesthesia and opioids do work, but it's addicting, it's killing people. And then we got numbing cream and all that, and that works. But then we have stuff like um chemotherapy, and that doesn't always work. And they got HIV medicines, and HIV medicine is not always working either. So the problem that I was learning was that with kidney, lung cancer, gallbladder, some of this stuff I researched myself. Okay, some of it I researched myself, but when it comes down to like, um, I use kojic acid, glutathione, MSM, B12, omega 3, and I tried other things like cigarettes and alcohol. And alcohol is just as bad because it kills the liver, and weed kills the brain cells. So weed kills brain cells, alcohol kills your liver, right? Um, I'm thinking about everything that's going on with that type of stuff, and I'm like, well, Jackie, you was doing all this research for years. Now you're finally reading a book about it. And I didn't know that a lot of the stuff that people are saying about politics, religion, and everything else is all scientific. I'm going to read the rest of this book in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to read the middle and the beginning and the end. And I'm going to just split up the chapters, the most important chapters that I think is most important, so that I don't have to spend hours and months reading it. But I feel like I wouldn't become a surgeon because it takes 8 years of college work. I wouldn't become a doctor because of how long it takes 4 to 8 years to become a doctor. And he was saying about psychiatric part. He said people with dysphro dis depression, anxiety, and mania and schizo. It's all in one basically category. I researched that part myself, but you could tell that it does a lot to the brain, the hormones. I said I need more estrogen. I don't want to keep taking these pills because it's making my hormones like more like masculine, where I'm not shaving my legs or braiding up my hair or doing my makeup. I'm not cooking and cleaning. I'm not listening to any music. I'm sitting in the dark all day. And I'm like, you should be listening to jazz, Reiki, whatever. But I'm mostly sitting in the dark, by myself. So that means that it's too much racing thoughts. That's another one. The mania, the depression, the voices, and then you got the cigarettes that is messing up my lungs, and then you have the food that is going to cause diabetes or high cholesterol. Then you got heartburn where you're throwing up blood and you're throwing up acid, and then you have what you call it, a gallbladder issue where you just leak. You got a leaky bladder, and this has been going on for the past 17 years. So my point is that when you read the book, like I said, it says Jeffrey Averon, MD, Avorn, MD, Jeffrey, and Jerry, not Jeffrey, Jerry, Gerry, and then it says rethinking medications, and I guess I research some stuff by myself on the internet every day, and I read some book that part of the beginning of the book, not the middle, and he's talking about politics, religion, medicines that have so many different side effects, and I was like, I'm not the only one going through it then because I thought I was like the only one that was going through that, but I was like, no, you can't be because um my sister, she's normal. She has like normal DNA. My little sisters and brothers, they all have normal DNA. And my family don't have none of that except for anxiety, right? But what I realized about it was you're weird because when you was bad when you were young and you were drinking, smoking, violating probation, fighting, yelling, and drinking and having sex at a young age. See, I think that at the age of 14, I was way too young for that. See what I'm saying? So, um, eventually I realized I said, you should have behaved. You were a good child at the age of 5, 6, 10 years old. And, 11, 12, up until you hit 13, and you used to be the one that will wear all the barrettes in your hair, beads, and hair clips, scarves, and your hair will be permed or braided up because your grandma, and you would have either box braids with beads or cornrows or a perm where your hair was down to your chest, curly down to your chest, and you were always brown skin, always pretty, but eventually I started carrying very low self-esteem, and that self-esteem came through with the voices. It came through with teenage years at the age of 14, 15, 16, being locked up for violation of probation, and eventually you never made it out of that until you realize, like, is it an evil spirit? You thought there was a demon on you. You was like, is there an evil spirit on me? Is there something evil? And I remember telling my friends that and just being emo and cutting my little wrist and stuff and saying, I don't know, I think it's a spirit. And I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know what a spirit was. I didn't even know what religion was. Like Christian, Catholic, Buddhist, Muslim, Egyptian, um, Jehovah Witness. I didn't know what none of that was. And I didn't start going to church until I hit around the age of 20 years old. when I hit 20. I'm 30 years old now, and I started going to church at the age of 20. Mind you, um, I think that when I learned what side effects can do to a person, and if you don't read your books and you're not learning about it, what are you going to do? I was too young, too dumb. And I have friends that like to go to the library when I was younger. And I always loved school, like art, singing, painting, and jazz and Reiki and all the Christianity Bibles. And that's how I was as a kid, right? And then eventually, as I grew up and started realizing the only thing that I knew about church was the Prince of Egypt at the time. Oh, the Prince of Egypt, Moses, and Jesus. That's what I learned, right? And then as I got older, I was like, this doesn't make sense. All the movies that I used to like to watch, like Spider Man, Batman, um, even things like funny comedies like Friday and everything else. I was like, none of it makes sense. If there's a God, where is the real cures down here? The cure medicine, the cure everything. No cure, no nothing down here anymore. And when there is a cure, it's for cancer, right? Not for HIV, not for mental health or anything, right? So eventually I learned that religion, politics, and then culture and there's 10 different religions you could choose from, right? And then it's like I told myself, I was like, girl, you know what? Since you don't know the difference between things that people never talk to you about, never explain to you, you got to go to the library and get books. And now I'm buying all these Chinese books. I'm reading these Chinese books, and that's the next section that I'm going to be doing: Chinese, Japanese, um, Egyptians, and then Muslims. And I'm going to be reading all kinds of books of everybody's perspective, science books of AI, computer building. I'm going to get some of those too: AI, computer building books. And then I'm going to try to go and take my time and just read, and just sit in the house and read. And that's about it. Love you guys. So find that book and you'll see it's a good thing.